So what do you call yourself? Welcome to the LaTangela Show. Hey.
Hey, what can I do for you this fine day?
This is your destiny. Hot, hot, hot. Right now.
Welcome to the LaTangela Show. Come on in and enjoy yourself.
Right now.
We gon' party like no one else. Welcome to the LaTangela Show.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the LaTangela Show podcast. You never know who's going to be in the hot seat or on the tan line, but I have questions that need answers. And I am shocked that Mr. Curtis decided to come back because, this time last year, you were in the hot seat on the tan line and we had a blast, but he has been avoiding me for like the last 364 days. And then I see that you brought back up with you today with Mr. Steve Wyche. So I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. It's a great time in the making. How are you?
LaTangela, it's good to see you, and thank you for bringing us back because you always do a wonderful job and you keep it warm because you're in that great southern weather down there, living life. So I thank you very much.
Thank you. I sure appreciate that.
And LaTangela, it's not backup. I'm his escort. I'm his valet. I'm just kind of helping him get through.
You know what? I almost believe that. A little more convincing in that tone. Look, both of you are just like the party starters. You are the think tank that has done so much and in such a brilliant way. When it comes to the world of entertainment and creating resources and opportunities, you're the voice of the voiceless and you're putting us on Front Street. You know what, Mr. Curtis, I'm gonna start off with you because why not? When we start talking about HBCU GO, I'm super excited to see that this year the field trip is making its way to the capital city.
Yes, we
But
are.
as the president and co-founder of this platform, tell me a little bit about the vision.
I think the vision is, it's a dream. When you look at, a graduate of Central State University in 1978, been in the media business for 40 some plus years and always dreamed about doing something in the HBCU circle and having someone like a Byron Allen, really embrace my dream. And now we're on our fourth year of that dream. It's remarkable. I had a flashback, LaTanya, at Tuskegee last weekend because one of my technical people came out and said, Mr. S, look at this truck, look at this place. I remember day one, and I'm blessed to be with you, and you've really done something special here that nobody thought would come off the way it came off. And that's something to be proud of. It's really something to be, it's really something to look back in the mirror. And, when you have people like Steve Wyche coming on board with you and also at Howard grad and believing in the dream and helping us navigate through this crazy media world and trying to make it happen, that's a plus. That's a plus. It's a big plus. And so, the vision is moving in the right direction. I think that the bigger part of it is slowly but surely we're going to move on the side that you'll see more cultural programming on the network, more lifestyle programming on the network, more educational programming on the network, because we really want to explore into the 107 historical Black colleges and talk about the history, the culture, and the life of these universities. So the vision is moving in the right direction. Let me put it that way.
Absolutely. And to even hear you speak of it as a dream, and now you're seeing it all come into fruition for you and for others. But when you start talking about representation, it truly matters. It's
Yes.
an edutainment piece. A lot of us, we're entertained through sports, but you're educating us about different schools that they may not have had on their radar, different
True.
student athletes that may come from different opportunities and didn't even know that these platforms existed, or thinking that, I see my friends, they're going on to other areas and they're being highlighted, but what about us?
There
And
you
here
go.
we are. And Mr. Weiss, you tell so many stories from so many different lenses. It's almost impossible to say what excites you at this point. But being a part of the experience with HBCU GO, tell me a little bit about some of the highlights with this collaboration.
Well, it's super exciting because, as Curtis was saying, I'm an HBCU graduate, right? So I can have students at Pine Bluff or Southern or Hampton, whatever, look at me, say, okay, he went to an HBCU and he's doing television, right? They've seen me on NFL Network for 17 years. I've had a very long career. I've had some of the bigger stories. that have happened in sports, Colin Kaepernick, a lot of things that, stories that I broke. But now it's like it's time for me to come home in terms of let's expand this, right? An example that Curtis and I like to talk about was earlier this year, the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic between
Yeah.
Miles and Virginia Union. We simulcast that game for the first time at the NFL Network on HBCU GO. And just the linear numbers on NFL Network were 221,000 eyeballs. Our households, I say. That's a significant number for a game between
Yeah.
two Division II schools played on the Sunday of Labor Day. Plus, there's going to be tens of thousands of other households added once you factor into the HBCU GO streaming element of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, if people who are living in Las Vegas or Seattle or Omaha, Nebraska, where there are no HBCUs, right?
Absolutely.
If they can see these games, if they can see these bands, if they can see an HBCU graduate on TV, it might pique their interest to say, you know what, Mom, I'm gonna put in an application to Miles. I'm interested in this. Let me research more. So I think that's what Curtis and I and Byron and so many others are trying to platform,
Yeah.
besides highlighting these
Definitely.
athletes and coaches and these universities and programs.
And we start talking about the extra eyeballs that's there on the program. They get to see not just the success stories, but being able to tell those stories uniquely in our own voices. They start
Mhm.
hearing the other challenges. People may not understand that although HBCUs they thrive, they still thrive with so many different challenges. And now entering a space with NIL, with
Yeah.
recruitment, with retaining, and even being able to compete in getting coaches and the band directors and the training team. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of brilliance that has to go on. But when you're climbing that hill, what are some of the stories that you would like to highlight on that end to encourage others who may be in a different area to support systems that you all highlight?
Well,
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean, go ahead,
well,
Steve.
from my point of view as a storyteller, as a front-facing storyteller, there's just so many things because a lot of times, and Latanja, I'm glad you brought it up because people like to talk about even our own what HBCUs don't have.
Right.
Well, guess what?
Yes,
We have
exactly.
a lot as well,
We do.
right? And when we talk about, oh, these football teams don't have the type of strength and training programs. Well, last I checked, a 45-pound plate that you put on a barbell weighs the same as it does at Tuskegee as the same as it does at the University of Alabama. So it is a matter of what we do with the resources we do have. And these are the stories that I am trying to tell. It's why we're involved with the HBCU Legacy Bowl. We're trying to put some of the top draft eligible players to showcase them so some of these NFL teams can get them into the league, to showcase some of these emerging coaches, but also to introduce the trainers and some of the equipment people to get them in the pipeline. There's so many different things. And this is where HBCU GO, I think, really comes into play as well. Showing these classics in markets where they aren't HBCUs in New York, right? Like the game this weekend, in certain places where they don't get the opportunities to touch us and feel us. That's important on the ground and in the broadcast space to say this exists.
Yeah.
Curtis likes to talk about it. It's a niche. It is a niche element. But those who are going to go to the problems of at least scratching that itch of that niche are going to get some really good stuff that's being produced.
Yeah. And even when you're doing all this product placement, Mr. Curtis, I know you're a numbers guy and you've worked within this industry and other industries, and you have always been able to plug people, places, resources, and make it all make sense. He just mentioned 200,000 plus households with a built-in crowd looking at something that they may not have even had on the radar. So when you talk to those potential sponsors, how is it that our participation from pressing on HBCU GO really impact the network and those opportunities?
Well, I mean, when you look at our audience, the African American community, we lead the numbers of television and viewership. If you take the African American households out of the box, we could crush viewership very quickly because we don't have the hundreds of dollars to attend a live game on the NFL, the NBA, or movies today. So a lot of that comes from let me watch. When you look at the buildup of television, that's why apps are so big now, because
Right.
now it's shifted from the old cable days now into apps where people can choose to make their choice of what they want to see, which is big. And when you look at our audience, as far as choosing those, we are very, very involved with those apps at the end of the day in trying to get the viewership. I think what Steve says is exactly right. You got to look at collaborations. Collaborations to me and partnerships are just a true meaning of building relationships, and I took the same model that I had when I was at BET. When I was at BET, I was the one that connected us to the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, professional soccer. And I'm taking that same model with HBCU GO.
Yeah.
Let's connect because, as Steve was pointing out, we know that audience. One of the things that I think also helped out in the viewership that Steve was talking about is that we could market. We create spots that ran on HBCU GO, promoting the game that he aired the other day. And those are the kind of things that draw the eyeballs in. And then I think that, as Steve was mentioning, the one beauty that I think is happening is you're going to see this is that there's going to be crossover. There's going to be major crossover because sports is sports.
Right.
It's like I used to tell people at BET, don't call it black content television. It's programming.
Yeah.
And we're doing the same thing with HBCU GO. And the one thing that Byron has really stepped us from day one is I told him, I said, Byron, listen, we only get one shot. If we don't have a quality project, it's not going to fly in our community. If it doesn't look good, people will turn it off and say, that's some mud. I'm not watching that.
And
But
good luck getting a second chance because we're
Yes.
tougher on each other than
You know
anybody
that.
else.
Yeah.
You can go to a black restaurant. If you ain't getting fed fast, that restaurant's dying.
Okay.
So it's the same thing in the viewership of television. You got to deliver a good quality project. And that's one of the things that Steve has helped us do by coming on board and being part of it. Because when you bring a Steve Wyche into an HBCU GO, people are saying to themselves, damn, HBCU GO got Steve Wyche in there that worked
Right.
with
The
too.
Steve Wyche.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I love
a
it.
major
I
plus.
love it.
That's a major plus. And people don't look past it, at the end of the day.
And that's excellent because not only is it a real-time showcase for our students, it's a pipeline for them because if they're, so last year, created this episode for Battle of Mass Comm for Bayou Classic. For us, that's, our Super Bowl. That's our everything because for HBCUs, we really expect them to show up and show out on that 50-yard line.
Right.
And people will come from all over the world to tell our stories. But for Mass Comm, are they able to tell the story on the same playing field as the football team is being displayed, the same as our student musicians are being displayed with the Battle of the Bands? So created the Battle of Mass Comm from Grambling and Southern to be able to tell their stories and to be able to have their stories told on our radio stations and on our TV outlets and to see that they have those opportunities with HBCU GO because you're looking for those storytellers that can relate for those who are on the premises and can tell you unique elements. So I applaud you so much for that and giving them that real working experience and being a part of the culture to move it forward.
Well, the goal of the network down the road, when I conceived this network years ago, was to provide opportunity for students to create content for the network. So if I'm looking at Southern University, I would hope down the road that we can get the Southern, Mass Communication Department to create more content. That's really where we want to go, so that each university can showcase themselves, and it's produced by them. I'm just the platform that just adds it in at the end of the day. But when you look at people like Will Packer and others that came out of an HBCU, and I was one of the first ones that gave Will Packer an idea of what to do with his first movie, that the door can open up and then you can grow from the door. And so we want to be that door that opens up. And then wherever you land, God bless you, but at least we gave you that opportunity.
Yeah. And I know you have a lot of big games coming up, but Steve, you've traveled all over the world and you've seen so many things. How is it that you all select which games, which universities, which players, which field trip you're going to take next? Because this year you got it right. And on October 18th, we're going to circle back to that because y'all going to be in the capital city, on the yard, across the hump, and we'll circle back to that. But outside of that, how do you decide which games you really want to highlight on the network?
Well, I'm going to let Curtis do that because there's always a lot of jockeying because other networks and stuff also have contracts with conferences as well. So I'll let him explain that.
Well, I mean, this has been, probably our best year, on our schedule. Now, this is our fourth year of the network on a Alameda group. And we were able to work with we had a 10-year deal now with the SWAC, 10-year deal with SIS and CIAA, and we're working on the MEAC, and then we would have all the conferences underneath us. But they have been working with us. I love the line that the commissioner of the SWAC says all the time. He says, when people ask him, how's the relationship with HBCU Go? His constant line is game changer, game changer. And I love that line because I think we have stepped it up in a way, because the way we deliver that programming is we're bringing the culture out of
Mhm.
the universities. We're delivering the history of the university. I don't know if you've had a chance to catch our open yet for any of our games yet, but that open to me is like one of the best I've seen in years on Black colleges.
Yeah.
Regarding, when we have a senator talking about it, who's also a pastor, we have individual students talk about the culture you have in there, and it blends in. And it allows us to open more doors, as we've been talking about earlier. But the schedule is a blessing this year, because one of the things I wanted to focus on is growing classics this year. And
Right.
so we've gone this year from 2 classics to 5 classics, and that's a major jump from us. We've got this weekend, we've got the New York Classic, which will be Morehouse and Howard. Next weekend we're at in DC with Hampton Howard, which is a great rivalry. The following weekend, we're in Memphis with the Southern Heritage Classic, and that's Alcorn against Mississippi Valley. And then
Pine Bluff, Pine
Pine
Bluff.
Bluff, I'm sorry, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Thank you, Steve. And then we go. Who's that last one, Steve? I'm missing one. And
You got
then
the Las Vegas Classic, Jack State and
there
Grambling.
you go. There you go. And I think
Uh-oh.
the Las
Uh-oh.
Vegas Classic will be a big one, because it's going to open up a lot of doors for a market that really is not a real big HBCU market. But I vision this market. I was very closely tied to Circle City in Indianapolis. And I was always amazed on how Reverend Charles Williams from Indiana Black Expo, who grew that thing, and I was a big part of that, how he grew that from 35,000 to 60,000 people coming to Indianapolis. And he was always bringing in top-notch HBCU schools to really play some great games that were played in Lucas Arena around this classic. So I think that the opportunity of bringing that in was great. And then you look at, homecomings, which were in your backyard on October 18th.
Right. Right.
And we have
Looking forward to hosting you here. Please send your tailgate requirements. I might even bring out my easy bake oven and the 60-watt
Well, you
bulb.
need to bring out that easy bake oven. That's exactly what you need to do. That's
You know,
exactly what you need to do. You know,
I got you. Steve, send your list too. I got you.
yeah,
You
that
got
that's
it.
but I think that, across the board, our syndication package, which is basically is aired on our broadcast stations, that we're in 96% of television households, and our cable package, which is carried on the Griot and HBCU Go, we've got a very, very competitive package, and we're hearing it now from the viewers. Every weekend we're hearing how good people like Steve and others are delivering on the
Yeah.
quality of entertaining, our audience on exactly what's going on, who it is, and when you have someone like a Steve Wyche who's lived and breathed it like Charlie Neal has, they have the history. When you're announcing HBCUs, you don't just say Curtis Symonds, number 25, he's a wide receiver. Just no, you got history on this player. Hey, he
Yeah.
came out and said his dad played Central State back then, but his dad was such, his coach was such. That's what the audience wants to hear.
Yeah.
Our audience blends in. They love that lifeline. And that's
Yeah.
the beauty of HBCU, because you always have the generation pop somewhere,
And we
down.
love a good story behind the story. And then when
Exactly.
you with such a success rate, when you can see that, and when these students they begin to get those highlights, it's next level for them.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That's exactly what's happening. So we're very proud of the schedule. I think you'll hear. Tasha will talk to you more about the PR, and she's doing a great job getting her PR out there
Absolutely.
in the street for us. But I think you keep hearing more and more about what we're doing, and some of the great things we're bringing to the table.
Right. And I'd also like to get some more information on those syndication packages and cable packages to support it. We
Sure.
have a lot of entities here that would really be a good contender to be a part to support what you're doing.
Great.
Because they believe in the student athletes, and this platform is definitely a resource that would be beneficial on both ends, and I can see the benefit in it for them as well, and they would love it. So I'll definitely get the information on that. But 5 classics, Steve, do you ever come up against the, oh, I don't want to go either way because I love them both, or I just want to sit this one out? How do you choose?
Oh, I want to be in all of them. Look at somebody. Look, come on. I've covered some of the biggest boxing fights. I've covered more than 20 Super Bowls,
Golly.
countless NBA championships. But there's still nothing like that HBCU. As we like to say, you don't go to a game, you go to an event. Right. And even if you can't go to all the parties and this and that, there's a spirit, as you know, it's a kindred spirit. Like next week, it's Howard versus Hampton, right? People say the battle of the real HUs, but we know the deal. There's only one. But
Right.
it's just the feeling of being in the spirit. Yeah, there's rivalries, but you still hug each other, right? Grambling and Southern, as much as you may bite your lip, you're still going to see your people and be like, HBCU love. There's a
Yeah,
different type of connect because we have all been through, and athletes use this through the mud, so to speak, of learning and growing and struggling and prospering at our universities. And so when I get the opportunity to do something like this is my first go round doing this, right? I did some stuff for HBCU GO last year, a pregame show and then a game at Arkansas Pine Bluff. But I told him, I said, look, I'd love to really come back and get a little lanyap on this, right? I wanna do more because it hits my heart and my spirit doing this and just bring a little bit of the gravitas and experience that I have. I'm involved with the Black College Football Hall of Fame. As Curtis said, I've got stories for days.
right.
And these are stories that a lot of people need to hear, and not just our HBCU students, but those who are considering it, those who know nothing about it. Because the biggest thing we always hear is like, why are there black colleges? And that's not just from white people. That's from black. It's from black.
Yeah.
We have not done as good of a job as possible of educating people who are non-black or even black about our history. And so this is an opportunity in so many different ways using these platforms that we can continue to do this. And this is why, I'm still working with Curtis and Byron to continue the partnerships, like he said, with NFL Network and things like this, because the synergy is limitless, right? There's just so many things that we can continue to do to build this out, to showcase everything. There's enough in today's media, what Curtis talks about. When Curtis and I were growing up, we had 3 channels and
Got
a
it. Got
UHF
it.
channel. So
Right.
now
Right.
there's a million different options with these apps. So it's
Right.
boundless, right? We can do things there are so many options we can continue to provide content and for. And I think that's the important part of what Curtis is trying to build here.
It's perfect. And this is an extension of your office. So whenever you have anything going on, feel free to jump in the hot seat on the tan line. You know where to find me. I'll see you on October 18th. But if you need me before then, you hear the bird call, wait, whoo, have you practiced it today? Whoo, you just call me and I'm right there. I'm right there. So,
Sandy, you're all right. You're all right with me. You keep it going.
thank
You're
you.
live. You're a live sister. You're
Thank
all
you, my
right.
love. Of course, we can always follow your movements and the programming and the greatness that you have at hbcu.tv. And there's an app for us, right? So if they
Yes.
want to follow the app, all they have to do is download the HBCU Go app.
Yep. Yep. And it's the same thing as HBCUGO.TV. And that'll pop you right into the app. And
Absolutely.
you rock and roll.
Steve, you survived your first time in the TANS hotline. I appreciate you for that. I hope
Hey,
to see
I
you
told
back
you, I'm just
soon.
Curtis's valet. He gave me a hella cover, so I'm good.
Look, I know y'all have more work to do, so I'm gonna let you chase the sun or let the sun chase you. But either way, get after it. I love
Well,
y'all,
thank
and
you
there's
very
absolutely nothing
much.
you can do about it.
You're the best. Keep it
So it is.
going.
Thank
All
Thank
you.
you.
right. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.